Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just looking at a certification, we're trying to get inside the head of a professional digital guardian. We're going to unpack the thinking behind the CISSP, which is one of the most respected credentials in cybersecurity, to really understand not just what these experts know, but how they see the world.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? Because being a guardian of our digital lives isn't just about knowing how to code or configure a firewall. It's a whole mindset. It's a completely different way of looking at systems, of seeing vulnerabilities where others don't, and of building defenses. And that's the mindset we're going to dig into today.
And at the very heart of this professional mindset is the CISSP certification. This quote, well, it just nails it. It perfectly describes what it's all about. The point isn't to become the world's leading expert in one tiny, specific area. The goal is to build this broad, really comprehensive knowledge across the entire security landscape.
All right, so here's our game plan for building out that blueprint. First, we'll touch on why the CISSP is considered a gold standard. Then we'll map out the actual journey to get one. After that, we dive into the core concepts, the 3 pillars of protection, the security rulebook that holds it all together, the art of calculating digital risk, and then the big one, the human factor.
So, first up, what gives it the right to be called the gold standard? Well, it's run by a nonprofit called ISC², but the really crucial part is that it's vendor agnostic. What that means is that the principles you learn aren't tied to any one company's products. Not Microsoft, not Google, not anybody. They are universal truths of security, which makes the knowledge incredibly powerful and useful no matter where you work. Okay, so what does this mile-wide journey actually look like in practice? Let's just say it's a whole lot more than just cramming for a test. It's this really rigorous process that's designed to prove that you don't just know the stuff. You've actually done it in the real world. The knowledge you need is broken down into these 8 domains. And just take a second to look at this list. You're covering everything from high-level boardroom strategy in risk management, all the way down to the nitty-gritty of code in software development security. This is what mile-wide really truly means. You've got to be fluent across this entire spectrum.
And getting certified, well, it's a marathon for sure. You need years of paid professional experience before you can even sit for the exam. Then, after you pass, you need another professional, another CISSP, to endorse you, to basically vouch for your skills and your ethics. And it doesn't even stop there. This isn't some trophy you stick on a shelf. You have to commit to lifelong learning to maintain it.
All right, now we're getting to the absolute core of the security mindset. I mean, if your job is to protect something, you better have a really clear definition of what protection actually is. And in the world of information security, it all comes down to 3 key goals. And this is it, the CIA triad. No, not that CIA. This is the absolute bedrock of InfoSec. Confidentiality is about keeping secrets secret. Integrity is about making sure your data is accurate and hasn't been tampered with. And availability means the systems and data are there when you need them. Literally every security control, from a password to a firewall, is there to serve one of these 3 masters. Now, here's a really cool way to think about this constant battle. For every goal in that CIA triad, there's an opposite failure state. A failure of confidentiality is disclosure. A failure of integrity is alteration. And a failure of availability is destruction. So security pros are in this constant tug of war, right? They're trying to uphold CIA while the attackers are trying to cause DAA. So to make sure that CIA triad holds up, big organizations can't just wing it. They need a formal structure, a rule book that spells out how security works, from the very top all the way down. And this hierarchy is so important. Think about it like you're building a house. The policy is the high-level vision from the management. It answers why, like, we must protect all customer data. The standard is like the building code. It answers what, like, all laptops must use this specific type of encryption. And the procedure is the step-by-step instruction manual for the builders. It answers how, telling them exactly how to turn that encryption on.
Okay, so you've got your rulebook, but security costs money, and you have a limited budget. How do you decide where to spend it? Well, it's not based on a gut feeling. It's a formal process of actually calculating risk.
And risk analysis basically comes in two flavors. You've got qualitative, which is subjective. You use words, oh, that's a high risk, this one is low. But then there's quantitative analysis, and this is where it gets tough, because you're trying to put a precise dollar value on a risk.
To get to that dollar value, we start here with something called the single loss expectancy, or SLE. It's a fancy term for a really simple idea. If a specific bad thing happens just one time, exactly how much money are we going to lose? And the formula is surprisingly straightforward. You just take the asset value, what the thing you're protecting is worth, and multiply it by the exposure factor, what percentage of it would be damaged. So if your customer database is worth $1 million and a breach would affect, say, 10% of it, your single loss expectation is $100,000. That's the cost of one single breach. But one-off incidents don't tell the whole story. To make real budget decisions, you need to know what this risk might cost you over an entire year. And that's where the annual loss expectation, or ALE, comes in.
And again, the formula is super simple. You take that SLE we just calculated, the 100 grand, and you multiply it by the annual rate of occurrence, or ARO. That's just a geeky way of asking, how many times a year do we think this will happen? So if we think we'll get breached twice a year, we multiply our $100,000 SLE by 2. Our annual loss expectation is $200,000. And boom, now you have a number, a real dollar figure to justify your security budget. So you've done the math and you know you have a $200,000 a year problem. What do you do about it? Well, you have options. You can mitigate it, spend, say, $50,000 on better security to reduce the risk. You can transfer it, which is basically buying a cyber insurance policy. Or, if fixing it costs way more than the risk itself, management might just decide to formally accept it. The key is that it's an informed, documented business decision.
But here's the thing. After all the frameworks, all the policies, all the complicated math, every single security pro knows that a system's fate often rests with its most unpredictable and, frankly, most vulnerable component: people. You hear this phrase all the time in security, and for a very good reason. You can patch software, but you can't patch a human. You can't upgrade their trust. And this is exactly why attacks like phishing through email, vishing over the phone, and smishing through text messages are so effective. They don't exploit technology, they exploit human nature. And protecting people and their data means you have to operate inside this tangled web of rules. A top-tier security professional can't just be a tech expert. They have to navigate all these different laws and regulations, which change depending on where you are in the world. Messing up GDPR in Europe or HIPAA in the US isn't just a security problem. It's a massive legal and financial nightmare. And that brings us right back to the beginning. We've walked through the blueprint of a digital guardian, how they think about protection, rules, risk, and the human element. So I'll leave you with this final thought. If you apply that same professional logic, who is the biggest threat to your own personal security? The answer might be closer than you think.